I'm Sydney Jones, I'm 19 years old, and this is my story. On a Sunday morning on June 9th, 2011, I was 5 years old and my brother abused me. During the abuse, he had licked me and I was made to lick him, and then he told me not to tell our parents because it would get him in trouble, and I didn't understand, and actually I didn't think anything was wrong with it because at the time I was getting cotton in some areas and he told me that he would be able to clean me, so it made sense for me. 4 days later, on the Thursday, I told my parents, and how my mum found out. My dad was in a shop in Norwich, and I said to my mum that Charlie made me lick his bum and white stuff came out. So that's how my parents found out as well. As I was young, my memories are extremely vague, but I do remember the one thing I don't remember telling my parents, but the one thing that happened that I remember is that my dad threw me in a bath and basically just ran out of the room, and my parents started arguing. As it's my dad's son, not my mum's, my mum had, made him part of the family. She had his name engraved on her wedding ring. My dad was confused and let down by his own son. Me and my brother were completely inseparable. There's tons of photos of us, it would just be me and him basically. And yeah, it just shattered the entire family. My parents ended up being on the verge of divorce because my mum didn't trust my dad. Obviously, it wasn't her son, but she couldn't look at my dad the same way. My parents stopped having sex because they just couldn't deal with that. There was a lot of arguing in the house for years afterwards. It still goes on today, really. But for unrelated issues now. Well, my dad left house a few times. Mum kicked him out a few times as well, but eventually, I remember my mum kicked my dad out and then she regretted it, so I think I was about 7 or 6 years old, and my mum begged me to beg my dad back into the house, which he eventually, thankfully, took. But the household became extremely turbulent since then, and it still goes on today. On the Thursday afterwards, so 4 days after my abuse happened, we reported it to the police. We don't have any of the documents. We were never given any documents by the police. We only had occasional visits and occasional phone calls. One of the phone calls, so originally they were taking it very seriously. My brother was questioned, and a few months later, my dad got a call from the police and they were talking, and the police woman mentioned a previous incident involving my brother, and my dad was instantly thinking, like all parents would, oh my god, my son has been abused. That was what the other incident was. But that wasn't true at all. In fact, in 2006, when my brother was 7 years old, he was round someone's house, and one of the mothers walked into their room and they saw my 7-year-old brother, his 7-year-old friend, and this friend's 3-year-old brother giving fellatio to each other all in a circle, and my brother had instigated it, which was taken to the police also. But this incident happened in November 2006, and it was also dropped in November 2006. They decided to not pursue it any further. That was one of the last times that we really heard from the police, other than when we took it to court. But even when I was getting interviewed by the police, my parents were made to sit outside the interview room, and it had extremely thin walls, so my parents heard every single word of what I was saying to the officers, everything that was done to me and what I was made to do. They heard every single bit of it. At the time of my abuse, my brother was spending the weekends with us before we dropped him back at his mum's. But when I told my parents about the abuse, I hadn't seen him up. I'd seen him the previous weekend when my abuse happened, and I never saw him again since then, as far as I'm aware, because I don't know what he looks like, so I don't know if I could be standing next to him in a shop and I wouldn't know. Previously to that, He did live with us for a few months, actually lived with us school days as well, but he was a troubled child. He brought a lot of, he brought lighters in the school and threatened to burn the school down. I think he brought a gun into school. So we eventually kicked him out and just said, look, you have to stay on weekends and that's it. I remember my brother being very kind and very caring. Like I said, we were inseparable. We were each other's best friend. I remember playing Fallout 3 with him all the time, or like Assassin's Creed, just different video games. But what I also fear is that I've got a lot of memories that might not be true, because that's just how my brain has warped it. I know I've had dreams about things and I thought they were true at the time, so I don't know how many memories are true or not. But I do know that after my abuse happened and I stopped seeing my brother, I know this from documents that my parents have sent to the council, that I used to hold my brother's photo and just be in complete tears, because I always asked for him back and I always asked to see him again, but obviously I couldn't because of what had happened. So of course, how I mentioned about the circle that a mother walked into by my brother giving fellatio to 2 kids, it was 5 years between that and my abuse. My brother's mum knew about it, the council knew about it and social services, the police knew about it, and in those 5 years no one told my dad anything. My dad was completely in the dark over it, and that's because he didn't have parental responsibility over my brother, which meant that he could be completely in the dark no matter how long he had lived with us, my brother. My dad just had to rely on my brother's mum to tell us anything, which she didn't. There were also obviously my friends that I'd bring from school, primary school, into the house constantly, pretty much. We had a lot of friends come round and just play in the garden when my brother was around, so they were also putting them in danger, not just me. It was also other young kids younger than me who I was bringing and playing with, so they were also in danger as well. When my dad heard this on the phone, that he had abused another kid, we went to the council. We said, look, why has my dad not known about this? And they demanded an apology for me, because in my eyes, still in my parents' eyes, they're responsible for what happened to me. Because if my dad knew, then there's so many steps that we could have taken to prevent it. They wouldn't have left us alone in the same room. They would have gotten the appropriate help, which apparently he did get back in 2006, but we don't know how long it went on for. We don't know what help was given to him. We would have stopped my friends from being around him alone. There's so much that we could have done. Chris Heisman and Paul Coroner were the people who made up the complaints form, and they have said in this complaints form that they will not apologise to me because they don't think that there was anything we could do to prevent me from being abused, which obviously my parents have fought back on, but to no avail. Paul Coroner and Chris Heisman still think that I would have been abused no matter what steps we could have taken. Nowadays, now that I'm 19 and I've read through all of the court documents, I feel angry. I've tried to find all of their addresses, basically, so I can go and question them. I know where Paul Coroner lives, but I just can't find the exact address to his house. But I want to know why the council failed me. I want to know why they don't think that there would have been a way to prevent it. The hardest part for me wasn't the sexual abuse. It was losing a brother. Whenever I've had troubles in life, I always look to someone to help, and that to me should have been my brother to come help. When I was having boy trouble all of my life, my brother should have been the one to go and beat him up or tell him straight. It's really hard for me to see people with siblings because that's what I should have had. And that's what I thought I'd have, even after the abuse happened. I thought that that's what I deserved and that's what should have happened. Like, I've dealt really badly with self-harm, with eating disorders, just to, not to be cliche, but the mental becomes the physical, and it's easier to deal with if it's something that you can, like, for example, purging. You can make yourself purge because it feels like you're getting what happened to you out of you. Yeah, it's always been hard losing the brother. I don't care about the sexual abuse. I just care about losing my brother, and that's always been the hardest bit. At the time, I was going to get counselling, and the counsellor, I think they were from Family Solutions, but I'm not sure, they phoned up and asked how the little boy was doing. So they couldn't even read their own paperwork. So I actually ended up not getting any counselling at all at the time. I managed to when I was 13. But even then, or 14, I felt completely out of place because it was group therapy and everyone remembered their abuse and I didn't. I didn't know what, we'd have these exercises about writing what was done to you and writing a letter to them, which I've still got. But I can't actually remember. I remember what was done to me, but that's it. I can't remember much else. I always felt out of place doing that, and I had to do it for about 6 months. Even private one-to-one therapy, I just felt like he didn't understand what I'd gone through because I remember it. It's something that completely tears me up inside. But yeah, the hardest part of it was definitely losing a brother and losing someone that I was supposed to have a shoulder for. When I was younger, when we were taking it to court, we eventually dropped it because, one, we were told that it would already go to court because of my brother's previous abuse on another kid, and two, because apparently I would have to actually look at my brother in court and they didn't think I needed to do that and it would make my mental health so much worse than it already was. And also it was tearing my dad apart and my family apart, so we just decided to drop it. We were told that I would be able to revisit the case and reopen it if I wanted to when I was 16. But I didn't really know anything about it until I was 17. That's when I started looking through the paperwork. When I was 18, in February, so February of 2024, I finally said, look, I need to do this because if I don't, then, I'm not going to get the justice that I think I deserve. We are now in February of 2025 and it still has not gone to trial, and my officer has told me, or my investigation officer has told me, that it might not go to trial because it's not in the public's interest to go to trial because it's an historic case. So I don't even know if it's going to be going to trial. There have been periods of about 3 months where I've emailed multiple times, called, and nothing. This is a current period right now. I haven't heard anything since middle of December, and I've emailed 3 times so far. The last time this happened was between I think it was July and October, I think. And I'd actually submitted a complaint against him to police because I just, it was tearing me apart. I didn't even know what was happening in the courts. My parents had done the interviews by this point. I had done an interview by this point, and I didn't hear anything back from that police report either. The complaint, even though they told me I'd wait a week and get a response, I never did. So, yeah, I don't even know if it's going to go to trial. And every single day, I just check my emails hoping that I'm going to get one, and I'm always let down. And it's not like the officer is not there, because I've had automated emails in the past saying, oh, I'm out of office until so-and-so. I haven't had that the past 3 times that I've emailed him, so I know he's there. I know he's receiving my emails. He's just choosing not to respond pretty much, and until there's something that actually progresses, which I won't even know when that happens. After this, I'm gonna do something regarding the council, because I think I still deserve some sort of justice by what the council put me through. As much as they don't want to admit it, it's the council's responsibility that I was abused in the first place. A study was released by the EDP, the Eastern Daily Press, earlier this month, earlier in February, that said that 851 suspects of sexual abuse or rape between September 2023 and 2024 were under the age of 18. 131 of these were primary school suspects, which are 5 to 11-year-olds who had sexually assaulted or raped someone. This is an extremely concerning statistic, and tied in with the fact that 70% of all sexual assault and rape cases between this period didn't go to trial because of police wait times is, again, really concerning. The amount of children that aren't getting the justice, aren't getting the help, even perpetrators. As a 5 to 11-year-old, if you're abusing someone or raping someone, chances are, well, there's a good chance that abuse is going on in the home, or by an older friend, or by an older sibling. It's something that really does need to be investigated, and this is just in Norfolk, which is even more concerning. If you put it across the whole of the UK, that number's going to inflate massively. It does make me wonder how many children are going through almost the exact same thing that I went through, not just with the abuse, but with the council failings, with the police failings. I wonder how many fathers don't even know, or single fathers don't know, that their sons or even daughters have abused someone or raped someone, because parental responsibility, which changed in 2007, a year after my brother had abused the 7 and 3-year-old, that's when it changed. But my dad wasn't informed, my dad wasn't told anything in 2011. So how many fathers are thinking that their sons are amazing and incredible, but have actually abused a kid? It's completely awful. In the future, we need more strict policies on abusing children. We need proper justice served in this country. You see so many people getting off the hook with child porn images, and even child abusers, people who have raped, I know a case that someone, I've forgotten the names of them, but someone raped a 13-year-old and got away with it. We need tougher punishments for abusers and rapists of this country. No matter their age, we still need consequences to it, not just therapy and community service. We need actual punishments given out by the courts, which we don't see every day. And actually every day we see abuse rising, but punishments weakening. And we need to safeguard the children more and make sure that not only are they being kept safe in school and on the streets, but in your own home, because anything can happen in your own home by people that, you know, a mum might think that she's married the right guy, but in reality it's really not the case, and he has malicious intent. And same with when you're raising your kids, you have to make sure you're keeping an eye on them, that they're not mistreating people or abusing kids. You have to look out for anything basically that indicates that something's going wrong emotionally or mentally, or physical signs that they've been abused themselves, like self-harm or like talking about sex a lot. Yeah. When I was abused, my parents actually heard what was going on, but when my dad questioned my brother about it, he just said that I walked in on him watching porn and having a wank. And I know that my brother used to watch porn, hardcore porn, and it does leave the question of how many children are being influenced by porn addiction. especially, you know, abused children will go on to probably develop a porn addiction to sort of make themselves feel safer, like a Stockholm syndrome sort of thing. So a lot of them do delve into and develop an addiction to pornographic material. So it does raise a question of whether a lot of abusers or people who do go on to abuse another kid are influenced by the content that they watch. And the child pornography, of course, that's going to influence people. But like I said, justice is never served to the children that were harmed indirectly or directly from indulging in this content.